I still taste you on my lips. The message notification lit up my wife Rebecca's tablet as I sat at our kitchen counter that ordinary Tuesday morning. I wouldn't have noticed except for the strange sender name, just initials, Mr., and the preview text that made my coffee suddenly taste like acid in my mouth. I'm Alex Parker, and until that moment, I thought I had everything figured out. Successful tech company, beautiful home in Portland's West Hills, and what I believed was a rock-solid marriage of 15 years. Rebecca and I met in our last year of college. She was the brilliant architecture student who caught my eye at a friend's gallery opening, her passion for design matching my drive to build something meaningful in the world. We rose through our careers together, supported each other's dreams, created a life that others envied. When our daughter Emma came along 8 years ago, it felt like everything had fallen perfectly into place. Rebecca was an amazing mother, balancing her flourishing career with devoted parenting in a way that constantly amazed me. But now, staring at that message preview, something cold and heavy settled in my stomach. Rebecca was upstairs getting ready for work, the shower running as she went through her morning routine like any other day. Without conscious decision, I found myself picking up the tablet. The passcode was Emma's birthday, something I'd known for years but never needed to use. My hands trembled slightly as I opened the messaging app, telling myself I was overreacting, that there would be some innocent explanation. There wasn't. The messages went back months. Hundreds of them. Each one more intimate than the last. Photos I couldn't bring myself to open. Times, dates, hotel names. The casual way they discussed their encounters made me physically ill. Miss waking up next to you. Can't stop thinking about last night. 3 more days until I have you all to myself again. Rebecca's responses were equally passionate, equally betraying. Planning their meetings around my business trips, coordinating their lies with frightening precision. The person she was in these messages, I didn't recognize her at all. But it was the most recent exchange that made my blood run cold. Mr., everything's arranged for next month. You're sure about this? Rebecca, more sure than I've ever been. Alex suspects nothing. Mr., once it's done, there's no going back. Rebecca, I know. I'm ready. What were they planning? The cryptic messages hinted at something bigger than just an affair. Something that made my skin crawl with nameless dread. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. Quickly, I took photos of key messages with my phone, then closed the tablet and tried to compose myself. Rebecca would be down soon, ready to kiss me goodbye like any other morning before heading to work. To them. She breezed into the kitchen minutes later, the scent of her perfume, was it new? Trailing behind her. Morning, love. She dropped a kiss on my cheek as she poured her coffee. Don't forget Emma's science fair is this afternoon. You're still coming, right? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. How many mornings had she kissed me like this, tasting of lies and betrayal? You okay? She paused, studying my face. You look pale. Just a rough night's sleep, I managed. Go on, don't be late. I'll see you at Emma's presentation. The second her car pulled away, I was on the phone with Julian Cooper, a private investigator I'd worked with through my company's security audits. His response to my text was immediate. Clear my morning schedule. Your office in 30. While I waited, I started digging. Bank statements. Credit card bills. Phone records. Each new discovery felt like another punch to the gut. Regular charges at high-end hotels. A separate phone line ID never known about. Cash withdrawals that made no sense given our usual spending patterns. Julian arrived right on schedule, his usually jovial face turning serious as I laid out what I'd found. He studied the message screenshots in silence, his frown deepening. This isn't just an affair, he said finally. These messages, they're discussing something bigger. Something planned for next month. We need to figure out what before it's too late. A cold weight settled in my chest. What are you thinking? Look at the patterns, Julian spread out the bank statements. Large cash withdrawals. A safety deposit box opened 3 months ago. New life insurance policy taken out on you. And these messages about once it's done. He met my eyes grimly. They're planning something, Alex. Something that ends with you out of the picture. The implications hit me like a physical blow. My wife of 15 years, the mother of my child, might be plotting something far worse than infidelity. I need everything, I said, my voice hard. Every detail, every meeting, every plan. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with. Julian nodded. Give me 48 hours. But Alex, be careful. Act normal. If they realize you know. I picked Emma up from school that afternoon, hugging her tight when she ran to greet me. Her excited chatter about her science project centered me, reminded me what was really at stake. We got to the school early so she could set up her display. Rebecca arrived just before the presentations began, sliding into the seat beside me like everything was normal. Like she wasn't potentially plotting my destruction. Sorry, I'm cutting it close, she whispered. Got caught up in a meeting that ran long. Another lie. I forced myself to nod, to play my part. On stage, Emma beamed as she explained her project on renewable energy. The audience of proud parents and teachers applauded enthusiastically. How many of them were living lies like this? How many families looked perfect from the outside while harboring deadly secrets within? The next 2 days passed in a fog of paranoia and pretense. Every interaction with Rebecca felt loaded with hidden meaning. Every casual touch made my skin crawl. I found myself analyzing every word, every gesture, looking for clues I might have missed before. Julian sent regular updates. He had surveillance photos of Rebecca meeting someone at various locations, restaurants, hotels, parks. Always careful, always just out of clear view. He was tracking financial movements, building profiles of possible accomplices, documenting everything with methodical precision. Julian's office was already crowded when I arrived. 2 detectives stood near his desk, examining documents spread across the surface. The grim expressions on their faces made my heart race. Alex, Julian gestured me over. This is Detective Sarah Chen and Detective Marcus Walsh. They need to see something. Detective Chen slid a folder across the desk. These were taken yesterday, she said quietly. The photos inside stopped my breath. Rebecca leaving a bank I didn't recognize, carrying what looked like documents. Meeting someone in a parking garage, the figure's face obscured but their build suggesting a man. And then, images that made my hands shake, Rebecca at a shooting range, handling a gun with practiced ease. Your wife purchased a firearm 3 weeks ago, Detective Walsh said. Registered legally under her maiden name. She's been taking private lessons. That's not all, Julian added, pulling up financial records on his computer. The safety deposit box I mentioned. It contains a new will, updated insurance policies, and, he hesitated, glancing at the detectives. Offshore account details, Chen finished. Multiple accounts, actually. Set up 6 months ago, with regular transfers totaling over $2 million. My head spun. $2 million. We were comfortable, but not that comfortable. Where had that money come from? There's something else you need to see, Julian said, pulling up an email chain. We found this in a hidden account. Messages between Rebecca and someone using encrypted channels. They discuss a project scheduled for completion next month. The same timeline as. As what? I demanded when he trailed off. As your upcoming business trip to Singapore, Walsh said. The one that was suddenly rescheduled last week. A chill ran through me. I hadn't scheduled that trip, my assistant had told me it was moved at the client's request. Your assistant, Karen Mills, Chen said, reading my expression. We checked. She's been receiving regular payments from one of those offshore accounts. The betrayal cut deep. Karen had worked for me for 5 years. ID trusted her completely, even helped pay for her daughter's medical treatments last year. That's not the worst part, Julian said quietly. He pulled up another document, medical records. These are from a private clinic outside the city. Rebecca's been seeing them for months. I scanned the records, my confusion growing. Fertility treatments. But we'd decided years ago that Emma would be our only child. Rebecca had been adamant about not wanting more kids. The treatments aren't for getting pregnant, Chen said gently. They're hormonal therapy to prevent pregnancy. According to these records, Rebecca is already pregnant. Almost 4 months along. The room tilted sideways. 4 months. The same time period as. The DNA test results came back this morning, Walsh added. The biological father is listed under a pseudonym, but we're running it against our database. My mind raced back through the past months. Had Rebecca shown any signs? Her loose-fitting clothes, the sudden aversion to wine, the stomach flu that lasted weeks, how had I missed it? There's more, Julian said, his voice heavy. We tracked the source of some of those offshore transfers. They lead back to a shell company owned by Richard Morrison. The name hit me like a physical blow. Richard Morrison, CEO of our biggest competitor, the company that had been trying to acquire my firm for the past year. Morrison's company has been struggling, Chen explained. Their stock is falling. But if they acquired your technology patents, they'd corner the market, I finished numbly. And as my wife, Rebecca would inherit controlling interest in my company if something happened to me. The pieces started falling into place. The sudden Singapore trip. The gun. The pregnancy. This wasn't just an affair, it was corporate espionage on a massive scale. We need to move carefully, Walsh said. We have enough to bring them in for questioning, but if we spook them too soon. A text message alert cut through the tense silence. My phone buzzed on the desk. Rebecca's name lit up the screen. Coming home early. Need to talk. It's important. Another message followed immediately. Don't tell anyone. Please. Lives depend on it. I looked up at the detectives, my mind racing. What game was Rebecca playing? Let me meet with her, I said. If she's ready to talk. It's too risky, Chen protested. We don't know. Another message buzzed through. I know you know, Alex. But you don't know everything. Mr. isn't who you think. I can prove it. Walsh studied the message. This could be our chance too. He was cut off by an urgent knock. One of Julian's assistants burst in, face pale. Sir, you need to see this. Now. He turned on the office TV. Breaking news filled the screen. A familiar face stared back at us, Richard Morrison, found dead in his car an hour ago. Initial reports suggested foul play. My phone buzzed one final time. See. It's starting. Come home now if you want to know the truth. Just you. No police. No PI. Or the next body they find won't be Morrison's. The drive home felt like navigating through a nightmare. Detective Chen had insisted on positioning plainclothes officers around our neighborhood, but they'd agreed to keep their distance. Whatever truth Rebecca was ready to reveal, we couldn't risk spooking her. My hands gripped the steering wheel as Morrison's dead face flashed through my mind. The man had been alive just hours ago, presumably orchestrating some elaborate corporate takeover. Now he was another piece in this increasingly deadly puzzle. Our house looked deceptively normal as I pulled into the driveway. Emma's bike lay on its side near the garage, the nanny must have picked her up from school. Through the front window, I could see lights on in the kitchen. I checked my phone one last time. No new messages from Rebecca since her threatening ultimatum. Julian had texted, team in position. Signal if you need extraction. Be careful. The front door was unlocked. I stepped into the quiet house, every nerve on high alert. In here, Rebecca's voice called from the kitchen. Calm. Almost too calm. She sat at our kitchen island, still in her work clothes, 2 cups of coffee in front of her. No gun in sight, but that didn't mean much. Her face was composed, but her fingers trembled slightly as she pushed 1 cup toward me. You brought backup, she said. Not a question. That's okay. They won't interfere if you hear me out. Where's Emma? Safe. With my sister in Vancouver. I sent her there this morning. She met my eyes steadily. I would never let her be hurt by any of this. Like you'd never hurt me. The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. 2 million in offshore accounts says otherwise. The gun. Morrison's death. The baby that isn't mine. She flinched at the last one, her hand moving unconsciously to her stomach. You've got it all wrong, Alex. So wrong it would be almost funny if people weren't dying. Then explain it to me. Starting with who MSR really is. Rebecca took a deep breath. Michael Roberts. FBI Special Agent Michael Roberts. He's been running a deep cover operation for the past 18 months, investigating corporate espionage and murder. I've been his inside contact. The floor seemed to tilt under my feet. What? She pulled out her phone, typed something quickly. A moment later, my own phone buzzed with an encrypted file. Inside were FBI credentials, operation reports, surveillance photos, a massive investigation centered on Morrison Technologies. Morrison wasn't just trying to steal your company, Rebecca continued. He was selling classified tech secrets to foreign governments. But we could never prove it. Until you got close to him, I finished, feeling sick. She nodded. The affair was a cover. A way to get access. Morrison, he had a thing for married women. Especially wives of his business rivals. The pregnancy, her voice cracked slightly. That wasn't part of the plan. But it gave me total access. He trusted me completely after that. Why didn't you tell me? I could have helped. They were watching you too closely. Morrison had people everywhere, including Karen. We couldn't risk it. She slid another file across the table. Your assistant wasn't just taking payments. She was feeding Morrison information for years. Customer data, trade secrets, security protocols. My head spun with implications. Morrison's death wasn't supposed to happen, Rebecca cut in sharply. Someone tipped him off this morning. When his body was found, we thought. She swallowed hard. We thought they'd discovered the whole operation. That everyone involved was in danger. Who's they? That's what I'm trying to tell you. Morrison was just a middleman. There's someone bigger behind all of this. Someone who's been orchestrating everything. And now they're cleaning house. As if on cue, both our phones buzzed simultaneously. A news alert, Karen Mills found dead in her apartment, apparent suicide. Rebecca's face went pale. It's happening faster than we thought. They're eliminating loose ends. Who? I demanded again. She opened her mouth to answer, but a sharp crack cut through the air. The window behind Rebecca exploded inward. She dove forward, tackling me to the ground as more shots rang out. Stay down. She shouted, pulling a gun from somewhere under the kitchen island. The shooting stopped as suddenly as it began, leaving only the sound of breaking glass and car tires squealing away. Rebecca was already on her phone. Agent Roberts. They found us. Yes, we're okay, but they're making their move. Full tactical team, now. She turned to me, her professional mask cracking to show real fear underneath. I'm so sorry, Alex. I never wanted you involved in this. But now you need to know everything. Because the person behind all of this. It's someone we both know. Someone who's been playing a much longer game than any of us realized. She pulled up a photo on her phone. My blood ran cold as I recognized the face staring back at me. No, I whispered. It can't be. The photo on Rebecca's phone struck me like a physical blow. Staring back at me was the last face I expected to see, my own brother, James Parker. That's impossible, I whispered. James died in that boating accident 5 years ago. No, Rebecca said quietly. He disappeared with $50 million in embezzled funds from your company's original investors. The accident was staged. He's been operating from the shadows ever since, using Morrison and others as fronts while he systematically worked to destroy you and take control of everything you built. The room seemed to spin as memories realigned themselves. James had been the one who first introduced me to Karen as a potential assistant. He had pushed me to expand into the Asian markets where Morrison had his strongest connections. Even the property where Rebecca and I built our dream home, James had found it for us. The baby. My voice cracked. Is yours, Rebecca said firmly. Everything else was a cover, the fertility clinic records, the DNA test. All falsified to make Morrison believe he had leverage over me. Agent Roberts helped create a paper trail that would hold up to Morrison's scrutiny. More shots suddenly peppered the house. Rebecca pulled me behind the kitchen island as bullets shattered our wedding photos on the wall. FBI team is 3 minutes out, she said, checking her phone. But we may not have that long. James knows all our protocols, all our safeguards. He's been one step ahead the entire time. Why? I demanded. Why go through all this? Why not just kill me years ago? Because this was never just about money or the company. Rebecca's eyes met mine. It was about making you suffer. Making you feel betrayed by everyone you trusted. James blamed you for turning him in for his earlier frauds in college. This was his revenge, systematically destroying your life before finally destroying you. The sound of breaking glass came from upstairs. Someone was in the house. Back door, Rebecca whispered. Now. We crawled through the kitchen, staying low. Rebecca led us toward the garage instead of the back door. Smart, they'd be expecting us to run that way. The pregnancy wasn't planned, she said as we moved, but it probably saved my life. Morrison had a pattern of his mistresses disappearing once they outlived their usefulness. The baby made him see me as something to possess long-term instead of dispose of. We reached the garage. Rebecca quickly typed a code into a hidden panel, revealing a concealed gun safe I never knew existed. The FBI installed this when the operation began, she explained, pulling out 2 bulletproof vests and additional weapons. I'm sorry for every lie, every moment of pain this caused you. But we had to make James believe his plan was working. Footsteps creaked overhead. Rebecca handed me a vest and gun. James isn't just coming to kill us, she continued quickly. He's after Emma too. She's not really with my sister, that was said for anyone listening. She's in protective custody. James wants to take everything from you, including her. Cold rage filled me at the thought of my brother threatening my daughter. The same brother who had once helped me learn to ride a bike, who had stood as my best man, who had held Emma the day she was born. FBI teams are moving on 3 secondary locations, Rebecca said, checking her phone one last time. Places James prepped as bolt holes. But he's not at any of them. He's here, said a voice behind us. Hello, little brother. James stood in the garage doorway, looking barely changed from when I'd last seen him 5 years ago. His gun was trained steadily on us. You know what's funny? He said conversationally. I had this whole elaborate plan. Years of setup, dozens of players, all designed to destroy you piece by piece. But in the end, he smiled coldly. Sometimes the simple approach is best. It's over, James, I said. FBI teams are almost here. They'll be too late. He shifted his aim to Rebecca. Drop the gun, sister-in-law. Or should I say Agent Wilson? Yes, I know your real name. Known it for years. You weren't the only one running a long game. Rebecca's face showed real shock for the first time. How? Did you really think Morrison just happened to take an interest in you? That Karen just happened to be compromised? James laughed. I've been steering this from the beginning. Every move, every player, every coincidence, it was all me. Morrison, Karen, even your precious Agent Roberts, all dead now. Loose ends, cleaned up. The distant wail of sirens grew closer. James didn't seem concerned. You have a choice, Alex. Quick death now, or watch me kill your wife and then spend your last moments knowing I'm going to find Emma next. Tick-tock. Several things happened at once. Rebecca dove left as I went right. James fired, the bullet missing us both. I rolled behind a workbench as Rebecca took cover behind my car. You won't touch my daughter, I growled, returning fire. The bullet caught James in the shoulder, spinning him back. But he was still smiling as he steadied himself. Oh, Alex. Still so naive. He reached into his jacket with his good arm. Did you really think I'd come alone? The garage door began to rise behind him. Headlights illuminated multiple figures with guns. Then the real FBI team burst through the side door. Flashbangs erupted. Smoke filled the space. Gunfire erupted from all directions. I heard Rebecca scream my name. Felt the impact as she tackled me again. More shots. Something hot and wet on my hands. When the smoke cleared, James lay dead along with 3 of his men. The rest were in custody. But Rebecca. No, no, no. I cradled her in my arms. Blood spread across her vest where a bullet had found a gap. Emma, she gasped. Safe. Paris. Agent Chen has her. Her eyes locked onto mine. I love you. Never stopped. Everything else was lies, but not that. Stay with me, I begged as medics swarmed around us. We're going to have a baby, remember? You have to stay. She squeezed my hand. Smiled faintly. Go, find Emma. Tell her. Her eyes drifted shut as the medics worked frantically to save her. 3 days later, I stood in a Paris cafe, watching my daughter play in a nearby park with Detective Chen, now revealed as another deep-cover FBI agent. Emma was safe, happy, unaware of how close she had come to losing everything. My phone buzzed with a message from the hospital, she's awake. Baby's fine. Both stable. I smiled through tears, watching Emma laugh in the sunshine. We had a long road ahead, healing, rebuilding, learning to trust again. But we were alive. We were together. And sometimes, that's enough.